lately, these past couple years, from I think for the past 7, 8 years now, since like 2012, 9 years, 7, 8, 9 years now, they've been making a lot of slavery movies. So it's basically just white people. They white guilt. They're putting, all these black movies are coming out now, and a lot of white people are angry about it because they're making a lot of slavery movies. They made 12 Years a Slave, which came out in 2013. That was one of the best movies they ever made. It reminded me of Roots. They made a 2016. They made a remake of Roots from the 1977 with Alex Haley. That was a good series. This one, the new remake of Roots, is more realistic. They show black people getting beaten and abused and all this violence and stuff like that. It's more faithful to the book than it was, because the 1977 Roots was more fake. It was kind of like, they kind of sugarcoated it. It was kind of like all goody two shoes. But the remake of Roots is really good. It's more realistic, and it's more faithful to the book. The Chicken George in the 1977 Roots was dark skinned. In the remake, the 2016 version, they make Chicken George a light skinned man, which he denies his white ancestry. He tries to pretend like he's full black, but he's always reminded that he's half white. He doesn't like that, but it's very good. But I think a lot of white America they're angry about it. I think black people are ashamed of it because they don't want to be reminded that they say, well, it's in the past. But we need to know our history. Black people, we need to know that we can't just forget history, because history repeats itself. You know, um, we need to know where we come from. And you go on YouTube, you don't see too many documentaries. You really don't see too many. They don't teach this in schools. They don't teach racism in school. You never hear about people like Harriet Tubman. They don't teach about her. They don't really teach about her in school. You don't hear about other people like Muhammad Ali. You don't hear about, they don't even talk about Michael Jordan. They don't talk about any black people in public schools. In schools, they usually talk about Thomas Jefferson or other people like that, Abraham Lincoln, and which is so funny because they portray. I'm gonna get to that later on, but they usually talk about like a lot of white guys. Christopher Columbus, who discovered America, the whole world. He said the people thought the Earth was flat. He told people the Earth was round and stuff like that. But they don't talk about any black people. They don't talk about any the black guy who created peanut butter. Peanut butter was created by a black man, and a lot of white people like peanut butter. A lot of people don't know this. They don't teach black history. They teach white history, but they don't teach black history. And I think they should, but I'll get that to another time. Right now, they just made a Harriet Tubman movie, came out 2019, and that is a very good movie. It's about Harriet Tubman, who freed a whole bunch of black people who were slaves and abused, and they were tired of being, they want their freedom. They had no freedom. They were owned by slave masters who would just abuse them. They work 15 hours a day with no food, no water. Uh, and she would go and capture slaves, and she would take them and free them. She would put them on a wagon, and they would hide. She would hide them on a wagon, and then she came back and forth. She freed over 300 slaves, Harriet Tubman. So she was like a black superhero. There aren't many black women who are seen as superheroes, heroes, but she was a black hero. She wouldn't save over 300 uh, black people who were slaves and freed them. She freed a whole bunch of black people too. So that was good. And they made movies like 12 Years a Slave, and they made a lot of other movies too. They made Selma, which came out 2015, I think, about 5 years ago. That was a good movie. And they're making a lot of other movies, civil rights movies now. They made Mississippi Burning, all these. That came out in the 1980s, these past couple of years they've been coming out a lot of slave movies, and a lot of people are saying let it stay in the past. It's not it was not let's no we need to be they need to make more movies about black people, in from the 1960s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s. Even they made a Misted. Steven Spielberg made a Misted. That was a good movie. That's one of the best movies he's ever made. But that was a good movie about African slaves who were captured, and they had a fight with the white guys on the ship, and they overruled the white guys, and they had to control the ship, and they had to, they were accused of, all that, so, hate, something, and they had to prove their innocence. That was a good movie. I missed it, which came out in 1997. That's a very good movie. Kind of long and boring. It's boring in some parts, but it's a pretty entertaining movie. It has its moments. But I think they should make more movies about slavery, and I enjoy it. A lot of people don't enjoy it. A lot of white Americans keep saying that forget the past, but black people we need to know our history because a lot of black people don't know we don't know our history. We know we come from Africa. That's about all we know. But we need to know about the struggles of black people. They should make more movies about they made a movie about Malcolm X and all that. Movies about Martin Luther King, but I feel like they should probably make more movies about black people. There are other black people too besides Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, who did very extraordinary things in this world. Miss J here, peace.